Me and Brad Nelson are also in Seattle, home state, on July 23rd, 24th.
Oh, we're going to the handshake, the beginning of a match. Jim Davis on the right here, playing Goblins with Mental Misstep. Patrick Sullivan on the left, playing Zudek Wins.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Playing Zudek Wins, and we are here at the Grand Prix, now, Star City Games Invitational.
Here in Indianapolis.
That's right.
I'm Gavin Verhey, and I'm here with Adrian Sullivan.
Hello, everybody.
And we're into the quarterfinals of the Invitational. 2 long days, 14 rounds. 7 rounds of Standard, 7 rounds of Legacy have led up to a Legacy quarterfinal match. Both these players are doing something a little unconventional for one in player style, one in deck style. Patrick Sullivan, traditionally a mono-red burn player, loves playing, just mountains and burn spells, decided that Zoo was the way to go for this event.
Yeah, he even made fun of people for playing other colors in the past. But what he said was, at the last event, he just got torn up in the Legacy, and he thinks there was a reason, primarily the change in the format. Patrick Sullivan, not afraid to change things around because of the environment.
And this was pre-Mental Misstep, too, where he was having these complaints. So after Mental Misstep, things only got a little more dangerous for him. Jim Davis, on the other hand, playing Goblins with 4 Mental Missteps.
What does his hand look like there?
That's crazy to me.
I think I see an Incinerator.
I see a War Chief and a Lackey. I see that for sure. Taiga, I think maybe, was there. So we feel like the key to this matchup is we feel like Sullivan is favored on deck, but with Mental Misstep as the big thing. If Jim Davis can misstep an important 1-drop, that's going to be huge for Jim Davis. If he can just go like Lackey Misstep, it'll make a big difference. And let's see, so Jim Davis has 2 Incinerators in his hand, and is thinking very carefully about his turn 1 play. He knows Patrick Sullivan has access to Wasteland, does not want to accidentally get Wastelanded here. Jim Davis thinking for a long time on this one.
Now, them seeing each other's lists does deeply influence the way that they might go about trying to make this happen.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Jim Davis knows Patrick Sullivan has access to Wasteland, where other players might have played around that. Patrick Sullivan knows Jim Davis has Mental Misstep, which he definitely would have played around otherwise. Alright, so the thing with Jim Davis, he drew his Taiga here. He's trying to figure out if he can run that Taiga into a Wasteland, or if that's going to be too dangerous. So he does. He thinks for a long time, and decides Taiga Skirk Prospector as his play.
Yeah, he has a Skirk Prospector Sharpshooter package,
now
and 2 Taigas in his deck.
Now it's interesting, he has, let's see, we're getting a list here. He has Prospector, I think he had Lackey in his hand. If he played Prospector instead, in case he gets Wastelanded, then he can crack the Prospector and still put Lackey out. Although, he only has 2 Mental Missteps, not 4.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that's a little...
There's the Mental Missteps in the board, too.
So he has 2 main deck, 1 sideboard. Okay, so it's not quite as crazy as I thought it was.
I think it's still pretty crazy.
And it is still really crazy. So Tarmogoyf from Patrick Sullivan. And that Prospector, I thought Jim Davis had a Lackey in his hand, but I don't think he went for it on the first turn. So now Jim has to decide what to do. Note Jim is playing very carefully. I think the key to this weekend, the key word if there is one, is discipline.
Yes,
we've seen Michael Jacob, who's in the top 8, be very disciplined with his plays, restrained, thinking about his plays in a timely fashion, but making sure he thinks to make the right plays. We've seen players all weekend, Patrick Chapin, do the same thing. All kinds of players who finished well at this event are just very careful and articulate in their plays. They think about what they're doing, think about the game, 4 turns from now. Jim Davis certainly taking his time in this event, but he is, once again, just a very, very disciplined player, making sure he doesn't walk right into a trick from Patrick Sullivan. Let's see, taps his Taiga, and down comes Goblin Lackey. So there's the Lackey from Jim Davis. And he Wastelands away Patrick Sullivan's Taiga, so Sullivan is left with a Wasteland. And so the board right now, Jim Davis has a Goblin Lackey and a Skirk Prospector against... Oh, and Jim Davis just got Wasteland. So Davis has no more lands. No lands for either player. Tarmogoyf versus Lackey and Prospector. Joining us in the booth is the innovator himself, Patrick Chapin, to commentate on this match.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going well.
What a strange... So it looks like we've had quite a bit of action for the first couple turns already.
Yeah, Wasteland's all over the place. Jim Davis went turn 1 Prospector, turn 2 Lackey. Patrick Sullivan played a turn 2 Tarmogoyf, and then they just wastelanded each other back and forth.
It's interesting. Is he leading with the Prospector to try to draw out the direct damage if he thinks that Sullivan's on the all removal plan?
Right, you don't want your Lackey to just get killed immediately. Also, in the case Jim Davis got wastelanded on the first turn and didn't have another red source, he could potentially crack the Prospector for a Lackey or another Goblin.
It's definitely a very precarious situation for Patrick, though, because if he falls behind, like there's not. I mean, his Tarmogoyf isn't that big.
Yeah.
If he starts falling behind, it's going to spiral out of control quickly, especially since he can get gem palmed if he doesn't get it up bigger, pretty soon.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about Jim Davis's list is he has a Mythal Misstep in his Goblins deck. I don't know if you've seen this.
Oh yeah, I actually played against him.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
He actually beat me in the legacy portion. It's good. It makes for some pretty sick openings.
So Davis cycles Gem Palm Incinerator, killing off that Tarmogoyf and trading the Lackey with it. And so like in a situation like this where Sullivan is stuck on lands, if Davis draws a Mythal Misstep, that could set Sullivan back even further.
Absolutely. Mythal Misstep is just going to be awesome in this matchup,
Yeah, I think it's a key card. Sullivan finds a land finally. Grim Lavamancer seems to be the card that he's looking at here.
Grim Lavamancer is just about the best possible thing you can do here.
It's pretty good. I think Jim Davis has another Incinerator.
Now, the Shaded Port's actually going to make things a little bit awkward if the Lavamancer dies.
Right.
Just because, like, Sullivan might just get stuck,
Yeah.
Does Jim Davis have any other removal besides 4 Gem Palm Incinerators?
Seems unlikely. He's got a Sharpshooter and Siege Gang Commander at the top end.
Yeah.
Nothing else in the main deck. After sideboard, he gains access to Pyrokinesis.
Pyrokinesis is going to be nice.
Yeah, this matchup. For this matchup specifically in Merfolk.
Now, a lot of the Zoo decks end up having more big creatures than Sullivan plays, so it'll be interesting to see how this changes the matchup,
Yeah, because normally I think Sullivan could put out like another Reliquary, or a Zoo deck could play another Reliquary and really hold the ground well, but a lot of Sullivan's creatures are small and fragile. And in comes Script Prospector, dealing with damage to Sullivan.
Yeah, that Gem Palm Incinerator is pretty big there.
Yeah, and if Patrick Sullivan doesn't have any more plays here, Jim Davis can start porting down that Taiga, like you said.
Yeah, it looks like he's definitely going to be advancing somewhat. Really, though, it looks like Jim Davis has even more Gem Palm Incinerator. But until Davis plays a Ringleader, he's not actually doing that much.
Right, he just has a Prospector poking for 1 damage a turn. Doesn't accomplish a lot.
But it's only going to take 1 Matron or Ringleader to really set things.
And he bolts, Patrick Sullivan bolts down the Skirk Prospector.
Yeah, he wants to make sure it resolves first before leading with one of his guys. It'll be nice. I assume this is game 1?
Game 1, yeah.
Yeah, Sullivan can't wait to board out the step wings. He was overall very unhappy with the step wings.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah. They would have been better, he said, as anything else. Like Izumaro, Lone Lion, like anything.
Wow, they just weren't big enough for him consistently?
Like, he only plays 22 land instead of 26 like Boros decks. So often he would be, like, if he plays it on turn 1, he aspires to get in like 4 damage. And if he doesn't play it till later, he often just doesn't get any damage in. And yeah, he wishes they were Loam Lions or Izumaros or anything. He's going to be boarding them out against everybody.
Interesting to see. Looks like Jim Davis drew a Wasteland there. He's got 2 Wastelands in his hand.
No, I think that's a Ringleader.
Oh, that's a Ringleader. So he's got 1 Wasteland in his hand. Probably going to Wasteland away.
He might just play the Ringleader. I don't know.
I mean, what if you Wasteland a land and start porting him? Isn't that pretty good? On the back tables, Patrick Cox with his Zoo deck wins the first game.
So we ended up with a pretty diverse Legacy top 8.
Yeah.
As per.
Yeah, 7 different decks in the top 8. Merfolk, 2 copies of Zoo, a copy of No Rug, Black-White Dead Guy Ale, Esper Stoneblade, Blue-White Control, and Goblins. And
so that's exactly what he's doing right now, is deciding, is he going to be on the land destruction plan, or is he just going to start going crazy with Ringleader?
Yeah, because once you kind of commit to using that port, like you just want to use it as often as possible. And so he cracks the Scalding Tarn here. Oh, and does that tell you he's going to go for the Ringleader since he's getting a land?
Yep. Well, it's hard to tell without seeing the rest of his hand. I mean, he might even lead with Matron.
Sure. And then just Wasteland away a land and get a Matron, or play Matron and get a Goblin.
There's a good chance that he just runs the, yeah.
Pile driver. And Incinerator killing Lava
He has
Moons.
yet another Gem Home Incinerator.
Wow. Drawing
Those
3
are just about the
Incinerators.
best cards in his deck versus Sullivan.
Yeah, drawing 3 Incinerators against a beatdown deck is pretty good because the Goblins deck just needs to buy enough time. It has the card advantage in the late game through cards like Goblin Ringleader, Siege Gang Commander.
Will the player
It's kind of weird, but
standard win box number 6
Sullivan
please
pushing.
come to the public
Wow.
stage. Standard
Fire
win
Blast
box
response
number
makes the Gem
6.
Home Incinerator do 0. This is Patrick Sullivan saying he's not.
Wow.
He's not scared.
Yeah, he's not messing around
He
here.
does not He's not scared at all.
And he even sees that Jim Davis has a Wasteland over there, so his next land is probably going to be Wastelanded.
Yeah, but he realized if he lost that Lava Man's Heart from this position, he wouldn't even have anything going on.
Yeah.
At least this way, he can try to draw. I mean, he can eventually.
He can try and draw. Yeah, he could draw a
Like he
couple
just
lands.
needs to hit a couple running lands. He's obviously running a little Mana Light right now, but
On the back tables, Michael Jacob picks up the first game.
Yeah.
Matron down for Jim Davis. And what Goblin do you think you get here?
Siege Gang.
I like
Siege Gang will completely take over the board.
another
Oh.
Incinerator.
Well, I guess if you don't have it, might as well, right?
Yeah, I mean,
I guess he's got the Ringleader in his hand anyway.
yeah. Now Sullivan has no board, no creatures, no lands, no nothing.
I've seen Sullivan come back from less.
Aaron Mesa for Sullivan, so there's the land he was looking for.
But he's against 2 Wastelands and a Restraint Import.
Yeah.
He's really behind.
Yeah. This is Sullivan just needs to draw lands for like 4 turns in a row.
Yeah, I mean, and it's tough because the cards in his hand aren't even that powerful.
Right.
He needs the Ringleader to whiff, but I mean, we're starting to get to the spot where Sullivan's, just going to have to keep hoping to draw land, and his opponent also keeps drawing land.
Yeah, I mean, he's drawing one of the Step Links, which doesn't do anything right now, too.
Yeah, Step Link's not what he's hoping to draw.
That's a plateau for Patrick Sullivan. Cracking that Arid Mesa.
Now, it is interesting that Sullivan, if he, assuming he's not as far behind as he is now, but normally his Curd Apes are among his best cards just because he can actually, the Curd Ape holds the ground very efficiently against these Goblin decks. And Wildly Hollow, obviously.
Sullivan plays a Goblin Guide, serves in, and Jim Davis does reveal a mountain, going up a free land off the Goblin.
You gotta admire the scrap in Patrick Sullivan.
Yeah. And
down in every way, doesn't care, not a punk. Sending in Goblin Guide.
we
Do it.
We can't see his face, but I imagine he's just as intense as ever right now. Trying to figure out how he can, scrap his way back into this game.
Yeah, and he doesn't have any basic lands in his deck.
Yeah.
So he can't even try to beat the Wasteland,
It's a rough situation. Mountain down for Jim Davis. Wastelands away the plateau, Patrick Sullivan's, and plays a Ring or a War Chief, followed by a Matron, looks like. Yep. Oh. Puts the Matron out, then pulls it back into his hand. Oh, it's Ringleader time. Yep,
Yeah.
that's the play I would have made too. 2, 3. 3 Goblins.
And Sullivan packs it up.
All right, Patrick
That's
Sullivan.
extra.
Sullivan knows when the writing is on the wall, and that writing was etched in stone. So players going into their sideboarding here. Let's look at Jim Davis first.
Yep.
How do you think he's going to sideboard in this matchup?
Well, first, it definitely depends on Sullivan's sideboard.
Okay.
How much sideboard. Yeah, I guess the Tinstry Hooligan is an option, but it's weird because Sullivan only has 1 Jitte. So there's a good chance that he just won't board it in. But I mean, that's the one that is kind of a question up in the air. The Mental Misstep and the 3 Pyrokinesis, the Mental Misstep for sure, and
Yeah.
I would imagine that Pyrokinesis is going to make the cut. And then, plus, he can afford to trim some of the, like for instance, I think the Goblin Sharpshooter is probably going to end up going. Oh no, he doesn't need to board in the Tinstry Hooligan, he already has one.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So, the Sharpshooter will go. It's possible that that the Tinstry Hooligan might even leave. The let's see, the Skirk Prospector. I'm not positive. I have to be more familiar with the matchup. That's one I'd look at just because it gets outclassed by everything. But I mean, I got to imagine that Jim's going to want to be playing a more controlling role. So Mental Misstep and Pyrokinesis coming in, because all he needs to do is survive the initial assault, not drop too low in life, and then overpower Sullivan with card advantage.
Yeah, I agree. The Prospector, he said, was mostly for comboing with Sharpshooter, and if you don't want the Sharpshooter in the matchup, you probably don't need the Prospector either.
Yeah.
So I think we can see him cutting the Hooligan, the Prospector, and the Sharpshooter.
Yeah, probably one more, because I got to imagine he's going to want to play all 3 Pyrokinesis in a myth on the step.
I agree. I mean, maybe... I mean, War Marshal's really good in this matchup. Is Pile Driver any good? Does this get blocked too easily?
I could see cutting a Pile Driver. I mean, the thing is, he's playing a much more controlling game, and the Pile Driver trades with everything, and Sullivan has a million removal spells. So I actually don't think it's out of the question that he keeps the Tin Street Hooligan in. I mean, I don't know. It depends on how confident he is. I guess he probably won't keep the Tin Street Hooligan in just because it's just one shit day. I mean, what's the worst that could happen, right?
Yeah. As long as he doesn't draw it, we're fine. Meanwhile, on the other hand, looking at Patrick Sullivan, he's got not a lot.
Jitte.
Jitte and Pat the Exile are the ones that are going to come in, right?
I mean, he's got to find a way to cut step links.
Yeah.
So he's going to cut 4 step links for sure. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So I'm imagining since 4 step links have to go.
Okay.
Maybe Gaddock Teague? I mean, Sullivan and I talked about this last night. We were staying together. We were talking about it last night. At least Big Daddy Gaddy is, he stops Pyrokinesis. And he's a grizzly bear. He trades with things.
It's true. Stopping Pyrokinesis is actually surprisingly relevant, I think, because that's a card that could just totally blow out Patrick Sullivan in this matchup.
Yeah, so I got a feeling that Jitte's coming in and maybe some Gaddock Teague path action.
Yeah.
Because the step links have got to go.
Alright, yeah. So if those step links go, I think that's exactly what will happen. And yeah, I don't think you want step links in this matchup even if it was good.
Oh, that's no problem. Oh, Fire Blast is another... I mean, I know he'll keep the Fire Blast, because he's going to have to be the aggressor. He's going to... Fire Blast is still going to work out.
I mean, you could bring in Pride Mage?
Solidly Pride Mage.
Yeah.
That's the tough thing is, what's better? Pride Mage can hit Vile, which is a thing, and gives you Exalted, which could be nice.
Yeah, the Exalted seems relevant.
I bet I mean... It's not a great sideboard. I mean, when you're looking at your sideboard, you know that you'd sideboard in, trained Armadon.
Ben Hayes wins game 1.
Ben Hayes.
Ben Hayes wins game 1 on the back table. So it looks like Michael Jacob, Ben Hayes, and Dan Jordan are all up a game, right? Patrick Cox. Patrick Cox is up a game. So Patrick Cox, Michael Jacob, and Ben Hayes all up a game. So the Zoo deck, the No Rug deck, and the Blue-White Control deck all up a game. Interesting, because Michael Jacob said that he hated his Legacy deck and was not happy with it for this tournament. So up a game in the quarterfinals. Players are going to grab their opening hands here.
Alright, looks like I'm being summoned.
Patrick Chapin is being summoned over the loudspeaker. We might see more of him later. Thank you for stopping by the booth, Patrick. Appreciate it.
Hello, everybody.
In the meantime, Adrian Sullivan is back.
Yeah.
So,
Out there, I know you guys already have heard, but game 1s were won by Patrick Cox, Michael Jacob, and Ben Hayes in the other matchups.
wow.
Classic. Turn 1, Patrick Sullivan, Kurt Ape. A formerly banned card, Kurt Ape. And it hits Mental Misstep. Jim Davis is having none of that. No Mental Missteps from him. Or no Kurt Apes from Patrick.
Let's see.
Snow-covered mountain from Jim Davis. Snow-covered just for flavor.
Kurt Ape comes down.
Second, Kurt Ape.
Patrick Sullivan wants one of those Kurt Apes.
Wasteland. Jim Davis fetches, finding another land, potentially probably a mountain. There it is. And Jim Davis was just kind of a long, drawn-out game. Eventually got his card advantage going, right?
Yeah, I mean, more kind of. I mean, Patrick Sullivan had no lands in play.
Oh, wow.
So, that's what actually happened.
Oh, okay.
Mog War Marshal comes down for Jim Davis.
I was busy watching the matches you guys weren't watching. Mog War Marshal.
Mog War Marshal comes down for Jim Davis, and that's going to do some good blocking on that Kurt Ape.
In comes Kurt Ape.
The War Marshal is awesome in the Zoo matchup because it just prints some good blockers to buy through some time.
Nacatl, widely considered the reason to play this deck. Pyrokinesis, the red force of will, tearing up Patrick Sullivan's board.
Yeah, the other commonly played one, Pyrokinesis, you just exile a card and you deal 4 damage divided how you choose among any number of creatures. So he did it there to good effect. Mountain comes down for Jim Davis from a fetch land here.
Oh yeah, he was did I hit you with an one turn? I missed it. Yeah, you missed that to the... Right. Oh, you cast messed up, right. Okay. Yeah.
We'll see what he casts now.
Let's do it dirty.
3 mana. And there's a Goblin War Chief for Jim Davis.
Things are looking pretty ill for Patrick Sullivan right now.
So 4 damage in for Jim. Crashing Patrick Sullivan to what looks like 16 life.
Right. So
Patrick did not have a lot of good sideboard options for this matchup. He looks like he's got a couple paths and a Jite, and that's about it.
Probably the best thing that Patrick can do here is have a burn spell that costs 1 that immediately kills that War Chief, and then follow it up with a drop that's a 2/3 or bigger with the rest of that mana.
Huh. Down comes
There's a 3/3, or actually it's a 2/2 and a slow Rift Bolt.
Rift Bolt is about 1 turn too slow to be precise.
Okay, pardon me, that Nacatl, there is a plateau there, so that's a 3/3.
So yeah, 3/3 Nacatl, backed it by a Rift Bolt. The Rift Bolt will come off suspend next turn.
I actually don't like that play. I think that the play I would have preferred is cast Rift Bolt on the War Chief. It is an elf. Kill all elves. Goblin War Chief is secretly an elf.
I mean, that does leave Jim with an opening to play something out. I can understand why Patrick would want to put pressure out on the board. So basically what Patrick is saying by making that play is, I hope you don't have it. Because if Jim Davis, you know, like, I don't know, play Siege Commander or something like a Google's Land Siege game, it would be really bad news for Patrick Sullivan. But he knows he needs to start racing, and he's not going to be able to do that if he has no clock on the table.
I don't think he needs to start racing. I think what he needs to do is be the control deck. Is put something on the table and stall for a minute. Just because he's not going to beat through the stuff that's on the table.
Right. I mean, I agree, and he's putting that down to be able to block. The problem with Patrick Sullivan being the control deck is in the long game, Jim Davis has access to Goblin Ringleader and a lot of card advantages, and so you're just going to get out-controlled if you try to be the control deck.
Well, you don't want to be the control deck forever, just in this initial point. But now we've got a discounted Goblin Matron.
Yep. So
I would expect the Goblin Matron will probably, it might fetch a Pile Driver, because the Pile Driver will then trade with the Wild Nacatl. I don't think Patrick can afford just to eat that Pile Driver if it is indeed what Jim Davis gets.
Let's see.
And there's a Pile Driver to the top.
Pile Driver and Incinerator.
Also an Incinerator. The Incinerator won't be cast, but next turn it can definitely get rid of the Nacatl for card advantage. And he goes for card advantage. Next turn he's going to go for that.
Yeah, the Incinerator is very powerful in this matchup. Game 1 we saw, I believe, all 4 Incinerators just destroy Patrick Sullivan as his creatures just fell one by one. Another Mog War Marshal comes down for Jim Davis, and a clogged board is going to be a big problem for Patrick Sullivan to get through. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, with that War Marshal there, you'll see that that Chief ended up making not only 2 free mana for Jim Davis, but also 2 extra free damage.
Yeah. It's let's see. He blocks the Matron and takes 4 points, dropping his life down to 11. Patrick Sullivan quickly Rift Bolts that Goblin War Chief and draws Tarmogoyf this turn. Interesting, Sullivan still has Step Links in his deck. People said that he was for sure going to, or Patrick said for sure he's going to cut those Step Links, but he still has them in there.
Game 1?
So let's see. Patrick Sullivan is thinking about what he's supposed to do. Sullivan is thinking. You think you serve with Nicodle here if you're Patrick Sullivan?
Right now, he's in a position where he's going to have to get the damage in. He's only facing only in quotes 4 damage. Hopefully, Tarmogoyf. There we go.
Goyf,
and
Steplinks.
The Goyf can hold the fort pretty well. The Goyf might be big enough to survive a gem palm, maybe.
I don't think it is. How do we have instants?
Land, yes. We got land, sorcery, instant in the form of mental misstep. Creature.
Ah, mental misstep. There we go. So it is a 4/5. It's big enough.
At least for now. All it takes is. Goodbye to the ringleader, or the goodbye to the war marshal. As they say in Indiana, amongst other places, Echo is for chumps. At least that's what Kurt Hahn, Indiana legend and Grand Prix top 8 competitor, used to
that was
say.
seriously a phrase.
Yeah,
okay.
Echo is for chumps. Goblin Lackey hits the table, which means there's 5 goblins, and so this incinerator is suddenly just barely big enough to take out the Tarmogoyf. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Doing a quick count to make sure it does indeed kill it. Yep, nothing tribal, no planeswalkers. No artifacts, no enchantments. All of these 1/1s, any one of them easily able to kill with that 0/1 step links from Patrick Sullivan.
Alright, let's see. So, links to Coddle for Patrick Sullivan, 4 Goblin tokens, 4 Mega Man Goblin tokens, and a Goblin Lackey for Jim Davis. Davis definitely in the superior position, but...
And Patrick almost out of gas. Davis sandbagging right now a ringleader.
And
is that a Grim Lavamancer?
I think it's a Lavamancer Patrick Sullivan just drew.
Come on! How many cards?
2 cards. Twosies. See what happens.
Lavamancer, suspend Rift Bolt.
Alright, so he suspends the bolt.
Says go.
Now that Nicodle can easily block that Lackey, now the board position doesn't look that bad for Patrick Sullivan.
The Grim Lavamancer is a lot of work.
But Jim Davis's hand is pretty brutal. He's got another incinerator in there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, that's rough beats. Now these incinerators, these are cycling effects, which means it does not cost him a card in order to kill a creature, presuming he gets enough damage in from the cycling.
Right. Pays 2, cycles it, draws the card, and deals X damage, where X is the number of goblins in play. And so he can pay 2 to deal 5 and draw a card. Pretty good card in goblins.
5 damage to that creature, draw a card?
Yep, 5 damage to Nicodle is the one he chooses. So not killing the Lavamancer, notably, that's a really big decision for Jim Davis.
Here's an interesting decision that's going to come up now. Should Patrick Sullivan block that Lackey with the step links?
I think if he serves with the Lackey, blocking is important. I mean, I don't know how much that step links is going to do for Patrick Sullivan. And I don't think you want him to accidentally just get extra value out of getting a matron this turn for something big next turn. It slows him down by 1 turn, potentially. I mean, you definitely can't block with Grim Lavamancer.
Yeah, Grim Lavamancer is your path right now.
I mean, maybe you're just going to try and go aggro, but I think right now with the Lavamancer, Sullivan's going to want to play control, and that Lavamancer's going to burn off Lackey.
I think you throw your links in the way.
I agree.
Take 2 damage, that's acceptable. Boink!
Yep, I agree with that play.
There we go.
That sounds good to me.
I like the safety Lavamancer, but no, he's definitely not the
Let's see. So it looks like he's holding a ringleader and a Lackey on Jim Davis's hand. All right, Rift Bolt Jim Davis.
Wow.
And Patrick Sullivan draws Lightning Bolt. I think he's playing to his outs. He's seeing the only way I can win this game is if I draw enough burn. So Jim Davis had a virtual 5 life. Yeah.
And for that matter, unless something comes down to kill that Grim Lavamancer, a virtual 3.
So there we go. Let's see if we can have a Craig Jones Lightning Helix moment here in a second. Jim Davis does 5 to, or Patrick does 5 to Jim Davis. 2 more. If he draws Lightning Bolt or Fire Blast, Chain Lightning.
Yep, he's got 10 outs minus whatever he's used so far. So I'm not sure how many lightning bolts or chain lightnings he has used.
All right, so Jim Davis serves in for 5, and I think Sullivan just has to take it. I don't think he can win any other way.
Yeah, he just has to take it. He made his choice with that Rift Bolt.
Yeah.
And I think that's a reasonable choice. He can say to himself, okay, yeah, I could play for this control game right now, but I think the odds of me winning that game are maybe 20%, 15%.
Or less than that,
yeah. I'm making up numbers here, right?
Yeah.
And I think the odds of me getting the top deck I need to win might be 25% or 20%. Which is, those numbers are both probably much smaller.
All right, so there's
that is brutal.
Well,
the matron means he can get a gem palm, and the gem palm will stop this line of play from Patrick.
And now
from
Patrick
working.
is not that unless Jim doesn't kill the Lavamancer. Patrick
well,
is,
he just went and summoned a gem palm against one creature. So.
yeah, unless that happens for some reason.
Oh, okay.
And so yeah, he's gonna cycle it now.
To
Sullivan
the dome.
goes to Jim Davis's dome. I don't think Patrick has a way out of this now.
Now he's out of outs. He'll be at best 1 point short.
Yep. Let's see what he draws.
Sylvan.
All right, it's not good enough.
There you go, Patrick. Good game.
Patrick.
The double-handed handshake at the end there.
So that's it for Patrick Sullivan. Jim Davis wins the match 2-0 and 2-0. And in the meantime.